My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm Robert. In every episode, we're bringing you faith stories and fishing memories from some amazing members of the fishing community.
So join us as we shed a positive light on all things faith and fishing. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And we are back after a week break. Hopefully you were able to get caught up on some older episodes of the podcast or go and enjoy some other podcasts that you typically don't have time to listen to because you're too busy listening to Faith and Fishing. But hopefully you were able to get caught up on something and were able to enjoy that. Robert, how has it been? It feels like it's been a very long time since we've had you on the podcast.
Yeah. I think I was out last time, and then we skipped a week. Man, it's just been busy. So both kids are still playing school ball. So there's practices and games every night, and then just getting up, working, and trying to still do stuff at the beach place to get it ready to rent out for the summer. So not a whole lot of spare minutes in the day, but that's the way it is. So it's all good. Did get to fish one tournament and zeroed on that. That was Lake McIntosh. We can talk about that later if we want, but that's about all the fishing that I've done. It's just that one, and didn't really do anything on that one. So
I hear you. I was able to go to Dale Hollow in Tennessee. I've been talking about this trip for a long time, been looking forward to it for a long time. And I was not able to get my smallmouth, but I was able to add 2 new species to my life list, which brings me up to 48 species. These are the first 2 I get to add from out of state. Those being the flathead catfish and the spotted bass, like true spotted bass, not the Alabama spotted bass, but the true spotted bass. But I did not do well in the tournament, but I had a good trip. Got to meet some new people and got to connect with the paddle and fin crew and kind of actually get to meet them in person. And have conversations with them. That was awesome. I will say Matt Souders is a lot taller in person than I expected him to be. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and I was not expecting that. And I was able to, have a sit down, and amongst our table was Christine Fisher. So I was able to get to talk to her a little bit. That was awesome. So she is, one of the top names in our sport for a reason, and just kind of seeing her not with her game face on, but kind of her like sit back, relax, and fun fish kind of face was pretty awesome. But yeah, it was beautiful scenery, and I think I finished 38th out of 44. So I mean, not a super stellar showing in the tournament, but I really didn't go for the tournament. And I had to remind myself of that a few times. Flipped my kayak. It was fun. Stopped to pee and got out, put my feet down. And instead of the firm sand and gravel that I was expecting, my feet went about 3 or 4 inches in the mud, caught me off guard, and my yak went over. So fried a camera, and it was fun stuff. But
yeah, I saw your clip on Instagram of that, and it's just one of those things that you do 100 times, and then even that 3 or 4 inches further that your feet goes down, it's gonna throw you off balance, and it happens that fast. Luckily it's warmer outside, and you were in shallow water, so you can always replace the cameras and stuff. So that's the good thing.
Yeah, man. Well, I will say also, I did not check if the Russell Dillon GoFundMe is still up for the Dillon family. I'll have that link in the show notes. Russell Dillon, who was on the show back in its first season, passed away a couple weeks ago. And that's been tough on the family, obviously. And so make sure you leave some love there. The Russell Strong Fishing on Instagram is still up and running. Make sure you go leave them some love. And I will say, OmniaFishing is stepping up a lot in helping me get connected with some stuff for a fundraiser at a school. And also on our merch store, we've still got the shirt that has the quote from Russell Dillon, the "I don't worry about my problem here, I just fish, fish, fish." If you purchase that shirt from here on out, all the proceeds from that shirt go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation to send a kid whose wish is about fishing, to send them and their family fishing. So, if you're looking for a way to support the family, that would mean a lot to them. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's thank a couple sponsors, and then we'll get our guest introduced.
Sounds good.
A huge selection and crazy fast shipping is already enough to turn heads as an online tackle shop, but Omnia Fishing sets themselves apart with their ambassador program. With Omnia, you can send in fishing reports for your local lakes that recommend baits, structure, tactics, and gear. And when another angler takes your advice and purchases something from your report, you get credit for it to spend at Omnia. The best part means that with Omnia Fishing, you can shop by lake and purchase baits and gear that are proven to work where you're fishing. To get started, go to omniafishing.com and use promo code FNF15 to save 15% on your first order.
Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality handcrafted lures and has been for 30 years, right here in the U.S. Using all-metal components, Owner and Gamakatsu hooks, and silicone or frog hair skirts, Mr. B is pumping out some awesome spinner baits, jigs, buzz baits, underspins, and more, including some of the most unique bladed jigs on the market. To fill up your tackle box, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, and use promo code faithnfishnpod1x10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. That's Faith the letter N, Fish the letter N, P-O-D, so Faith and Fishing Pod, just like our Instagram handle, 1x10. All right, so this week we are having one of my houseboat mates from the trip to Dale Hollow come on. It was one of those times where you come in and you instantly just kind of hit it off with people just because you've got that common interest already. So it's easy to just kind of spark up a conversation and let things build. Sitting back and listening to this guy, and spoiler alert, if all things go according to plan, next week we'll have the creek crawler on. And listening to these two guys talk, I was like, man, I am out of my league. I'm going to sit back, listen, and learn. Because these guys know smallmouth extremely well, and they know fishing extremely well. So this week we've got Zack Soulliere. Zack, did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Awesome. So you may recognize his name from watching KFL while it was going on, and just checking out the rosters on these tournaments that are going on. He is joining us from all the way from Michigan. So Zack, man, welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. So to get us started, introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us who Zack Soulliere is.
Zack Soulliere. Just, kayak guy from northern central Michigan. I mean, I love to travel and fish new waters. But at the same time, I love to find the fish all the time on my home lakes. You know, fishing hasn't always been a part of my life. I played hockey growing up and went to college, played hockey there, and then graduated from college and realized I didn't have anything left to do. Just got bored one day and started bank fishing, and then realized that the fish were out a little bit further than I could cast from the bank. So I bought I think it was just like a Sun Dolphin sit-in kayak, and drilled a couple rod holders in it. And 5-6 years later, we're sitting where we're at now.
Absolutely. So he was out in a Hobie PA-14, so quite a step up from the Sun Dolphin that you can probably poke a hole with your finger in. But yeah, man. So kind of give us a little bit of your tournament background. What got you into fishing tournaments?
So the first time I ever, trying to think back what it actually was. Man, I had one of my friends, he lived down about an hour downstate from where I'm at, and we had a local trail here, and they were doing a tournament on a lake that he was pretty familiar with, and he invited me and said, "Hey, bring I forget what even kayak I had at that time," and he's like, "Yeah, bring it down, and you can just kind of follow me around and we'll find fish." And, I got out there, and I really wasn't in the mood to follow anybody around that day. I kind of wanted to go off and find some of my own stuff. And, and I'm pretty sure that the same day we got hit with a hailstorm, which was the first time I ever learned about rain gear and how you get cold really fast. Luckily, at the check-in for that tournament, I ended up winning, I think, a pair of Sidewinder NRS bibs. So that was good. And then, a couple of years later, I started doing a lot of the individual stuff. Made it to the national championship in 2019. Was fortunate enough to go 3 days there and put up good limits all 3 days. I ended up in 12th or 13th place final with a big fish on day 2 that was, $1,100 fish. So that, to go from not really knowing what I was doing to maybe 2-3 years later to being on that type of a stage, it was just kind of a crazy experience. And then the whole KFL thing, like you mentioned, that was another whole new aspect to kayak fishing. To get to be on a team with 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that you kind of consider family or almost like a brother to you. And even guys that when I first started fishing, I watched their videos and looked up to how they were fishing. And, one of the guys that I fished with was Jeff Fader. First time I ever fished a tournament with him, I was like, man, that guy's good. And, I would go through and I'd watch everything, look at all of his pictures. And then, 6 years later, here I am fishing on a team with him. So that was a cool experience for me. Unfortunately, things happen with that league and it's no more, but it gives me the opportunity to kind of focus on the individual aspect of it for a little bit longer. And I'm hoping to focus on it until at least September. And that's when I got a kid on the way. So I'm kind of hoping that I can get most of my stuff done before then.
For sure. And I know I said this over the weekend, but I'll say it again. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you.
We're all bass anglers here, so you can't drop that you got big fish in a national championship tournament without telling everybody how big it was. So,
well, I'll start the story off with what I caught it on. I caught it on a Yoga Pants TRD, and that is the 100% honest truth. It was on Caddo Lake, throwing it up against a cypress tree, and it stuck out at 24 inches and went 10 pounds exactly on the scale.
Wow.
So I got a nice replica mount of her hanging on the wall downstairs.
Heck yeah, man. If I ever hit the double digit mark, you can bet there'll be a replica mount of that one too.
Yeah. Actually, my wife got it done for me and kind of gave it to me as a surprise for a birthday gift.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, but yeah, it was a fish of a lifetime. I just remember the feeling of after catching it, not being able to fish for about 5 minutes. My whole body was just not wanting to work. I actually called the tournament director, which at the time was Dwayne, because we were running through Tourney X, and they were also using people from KBF. And I called them, and I was like, I want to make sure that this fish goes through. And the first thing they said to me was, "Oh, that's a nice little fish." And I was like, you got the right fish, right? And they're just like, "Oh no, yeah, we got it. It's a nice one." So yeah, it was a great experience, and something that I'll never forget. People struggle their whole life just to get that double digit mark, and to be able to do it within 3-4 years of starting fishing, it was a great time.
Heck yeah, man. So, kind of tell us. So, from the outside looking in, we're individual tournament anglers.
Mhm.
Whenever I'm in a tournament at all, kind of tell us how the team aspect of it. What did you enjoy about that? How is that different from the individual? All that good stuff.
So when we go to an individual tournament, we always put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We go out and we pre-fish over and over again, and we don't really ever find some of the times what we're looking for. We go back, and even when you're in the same house with people, you don't really want to talk about what you find. You don't want to share what bait you're catching fish on. And the whole team aspect, what I got out of that was you didn't have to rely on just yourself anymore. You could go out, and with it being the team's best 10 fish overall, 4 guys on the water, you could go a whole tournament without catching a single fish, but your team could win it by carrying everything else. Or you could be the guy that would go out and catch all 10 fish. But the thing that our team that we had up here was really big on was always having communication with each other. The events that our team struggled in were ones that we could never communicate with each other to let each other know, this is the bait that's working. This is what I'm fishing. Hey, even we're at 8 fish. We need 2 more, or we've got a limit. Our small is a 14-inch fish. That was one of the most relieving feelings, is when you had a group chat going and you got that message that said, "Hey guys, we're at a limit. Let's keep going." And our team did really well with that right off the start. And, we were the only team other than Indianapolis, I think, actually, other than Indianapolis in our region, that made it to the playoffs both years. Unfortunately, both years we went up against a really good Massachusetts Maulers team, and they took it to us both years. And, and we will never really get revenge on that, because unfortunately that team aspect is no more. But I've got my jersey from it hanging up, and that's one of those jerseys that I'm gonna hold on to, because as an adult, we always dream about the idea of being a pro athlete on a sports team, and to be able to have that feeling for a year or two was really cool.
That's awesome. I didn't even think about that aspect of it. But you're absolutely right. That's something that when I was 13 years old, if you asked me what I was going to be when I was growing up, I'd tell you straight to your face I was going to be in the NBA. Now you have to understand, I'm 5'10" and a half. I haven't grown an inch since I was 13 years old. So I was at 5'10" and a half at 13, thinking that I was going to be 6'7". Like, it was not like, I knew that I was going to be in the NBA, but I mean, and you're right that to have that kind of like that be a part of a pro team or like, yeah, I can definitely understand that aspect of it.
Come on.
Yeah, the whole team thing. I mean, we fish, regular tournaments, but we always fish around a lot of guys that do the KFL because we have two teams in the Carolinas that are close to us. And, the whole KFL and the team aspect has intrigued me since day one. And, I was one of those people who on the free Saturday mornings, if I did have a free Saturday morning, I'd flip on YouTube and flip back and forth between the people that were, that were fishing those tournaments on there. Number one, because it was pretty entertaining, because I always knew some of the guys. And number two, you can learn a lot from watching those videos because if I'm editing a YouTube video, there's certain things that I may not put in there, or, I'm going to take out a shot that shows exactly where I'm at. Whereas on the KFL videos, it's a live stream, and a lot of times people are showing more than what they normally would. So it's a good learning tool as well. I always enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is one thing I learned from that is a lot of times people go on YouTube and they watch the edited videos. The KFL, when you would go back and you would watch 5 hours straight of guys fishing, that was the raw, unedited. That's what we have to go through.
Yeah.
There's days when you go out and you don't catch fish, when you're just not on a good bite. It's not this, I cast and I caught a fish and then I cast right back and I caught another one. That's what you see a lot of the times when you Google bass fishing and then the lake. You don't see the struggles of 2 hours without a bite, and then that being mentally wearing, and then guys casting started getting screwed up and making dumb decisions really, but then being able to hook one fish and bring it all back, or see a teammate hook a fish and have that come back and kind of get you going again.
Yeah. And the other cool aspect when you were talking about that is I just realized that I had been fishing the wrong kind of tournaments the whole time, because you said you could still zero and maybe not catch a fish, but you could still win. So I should have been fishing the team tournaments this whole time to give myself a shot at actually winning.
And this last year, I had to, I think at least one time, I put a 0 up on the board and our team was still able to win. We fished against the Tennessee team up here on Grand Traverse Bay, not Grand Traverse Bay. It was Burton Mullet Lake, which is a smallmouth factory. And our team was able to put together a very good limit. And I caught a lot of small fish, but none of my fish contributed to the team score. And it was tough. It was a tough pill to swallow, but knowing at the end of the day that they had it when I didn't, that was one thing that was really nice.
Yeah,
for sure. So Zach, tell us about your Dale Hollow experience.
All right. So the 10.5-hour drive down overnight was a long trip. Got down there and just kind of wanted to explore a little bit, just see. I've never been to Dale Hollow before. I got on the water, I think midday Thursday area, kind of saw what I was looking for in the area that I went. Water temperatures were clearly going to be higher down there than they are up here. I ended up finding a lot of fish that were back in the cut sitting on beds, which I think a lot of the guys found that too. I left those mainly alone. I did a little more exploring on Friday. I know we had that storm come through, and then I went to bed Friday night, set 3, 4 alarms, I don't know, and I woke up Saturday morning to the sun out my window and realizing that the tournament started a half hour ago. So luckily, with the way we were staying on the houseboats there, we had all of our stuff already on the kayaks. We right at the marina, and I was able to pretty much just throw on the clothes and get right out. And it was a struggle to get 5 fish Saturday. I did get 5. I think I ended up with like 7 or 8 good bites, and I ended with like 74 3/4 inches, which for me that was a win. I during pre-fishing I only caught 1 fish that was good, and unfortunately it wouldn't have been big fish on day one, but it would have been a nice one to have. I caught 1 fish that was up in the 20s, and then other than that, it was just a lot of 14s. Day 2 came, got really cold. The area I went got really muddy, and when you're bed fishing for largemouth and you can't see more than a foot down in the water, it just doesn't work. I packed up with the intention of kind of heading north and trying to see what the lake looked like further north. I got to a spot that was all the way up, basically almost to the Kentucky border. And I turned in, looked at the water, and just kind of realized that it wasn't in the cards that day. I mean, I was already pushing, I think, 10:30, so about 2.5 hours left to fish, and I had 0 on the board, and I was already an hour or so north, and I kind of just told myself I'm gonna start my drive home. And told the guys from Paddle and Fin, messaged them, and thanked them for the great tournament. Told them that I plan on being back next year, and I plan on learning the other side of the lake from where I was, because that seemed to be the main lake seemed to be where the action was. And I know, it's a beautiful area. As a guy that's terrified of snakes, and I love Michigan for the fact that I don't have snakes. I only had to see a couple. Had my first run-in with a timber rattler. Luckily, he wanted to stay on shore, and I was fine with that. I mean, it was a beautiful area, a great time. I wish the weather would have cooperated a little bit better with us, but at the end of the day, it was a trip worth the 20 hours worth of driving that I put in.
For sure. Shout out to Robert Knoll, who, man, what a paycheck he took home, because he won the tournament, which was like what, $2,200,
something
and
like
then
that.
He won big bass both days, which I think was what, $2,400 each day.
Yep.
And I think he won an extra $200 for being the top Tennessee guy.
I also saw he had 221.5s on day 2.
Yeah.
1 largemouth and 1 smallmouth.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to him. He came in and he said, I am not letting somebody who's not from Tennessee win this tournament. And he whooped up on everybody.
Yes, he did.
So shout out to him. But yeah, I had a very similar Sunday morning. It was muddy. I was like, I'm gonna go up here. They've been telling me they caught spots up here. I'm gonna go try and get my spot, and went and caught 2 spots on a DT16. The biggest one was 11.5, and the smallest one, I don't know what it was thinking going after a DT16, because it was not much bigger than that DT16. So I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and head in. There was rumors of biscuits and gravy, so I'm gonna go see if I can find some of those biscuits and gravy.
Did you ever find those, by the way? Okay, because I asked, and so the guy I talked to said he didn't know anything about him. So that's when I just left and went north.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I went in and all the paddle and fin guys were there eating breakfast. So I grabbed some breakfast and ate with them. So that was pretty awesome to kind of just kind of be there and give them a hard time and let them give me a hard time. And yeah, I will say, Robert, I did have a really funny "you're not from around here" moment on my way into Tennessee. I stopped at Bass Pro to get my fishing license. The guy asked me, "What kind?" I looked him dead in the face, said freshwater. And I was wearing my Carolina water shirt, and he kind of looked at my shirt and kind of rolled his eyes, said, "Son, you're in Tennessee."
It's all freshwater.
I was like, "Oh yeah, y'all don't have salt water over here, do you?" He said, "Not that you can fish in."
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about, out here is, you can go to a lake one day, you can go surf fish one day, you can go offshore, and it really kind of puts you in a conundrum of what to do some days, or for the weekend or whatever. But it's a great problem to have.
And if you want a longer drive, you can go up to the mountains and catch some trout.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. And Tennessee,
I was thinking about that on my way home. I was thinking, more tournaments need to do a 10-hour tournament on Saturday and then a 6 to noon on Sunday. So that way we can get our drive started early. That way you still got 16 hours on the water, but you get to be off by that midday bite.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that too, because the last year I drove to Toledo Bend and it was like 16 hours. And when I was done the second day on Sunday, I didn't even go to the weigh-in, which I really hated to miss. I wasn't in contention by any means, but as soon as I loaded my kayak up, I just started back east and started driving home. And I think a lot of people do that too, but I also hate that people miss that, the weigh-in and the final kind of like, I don't know. I have more fun at those things than I do actually fishing. I think the camaraderie and being around people of like minds, I really enjoy that. But that's a good idea for that second day, that Sunday, to do something that ends at start at 6 a.m., end at 12, and then have your weigh in and stuff maybe at 1:30, and everybody can be on their way. But it was a great turnout for that. I know they built on what they had the year before. Hopefully I'll make it down there. And it's a really niche-y, I like to call niche-y lake, but when you figure out how to catch them, it can be so good. But it's there's some tricks to those Tennessee boys who are going to keep close to the vest, I'm sure.
Oh, even sitting at a table and talking to Christine, I mean, she was saying to us that, and you made this comment about her not having her game face on, and I've seen her at national championships and Hobie BOSs, and it was weird. It was almost weird to me to see her in a different sense of like being very like that super, this is just what I'm here to have fun. And it was really cool to see, and like having her tell us that, she was only catching them on one bait and telling us, "Oh, I'll give you the bait," and I'm like, I don't even know where you're at. Like, I haven't even been that way on the lake. So, but it was really cool. And there were a couple other guys there that I knew from kind of the national level of, even just seeing their names on a couple month longs up at the top and things like that. But it was just a lot more of a laid back experience. Even the local stuff that I fish up here, it was even more laid back, it felt like, than that. And the dinner Saturday was amazing. I went back with a full stomach on Saturday night, and that was it was a very good experience. And like I said, I'm looking forward to coming back again next year. My wife wants to go this time, and she's like, I saw all the pictures and I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, that area that you were in, kind of that between Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee, it doesn't get any prettier than what a lot of those places right through there are, and
Mhm.
and that just scratches the surface where you guys are at. There's a ton of cool places between Nashville and Knoxville.
I got to see a lot because on my way there, my GPS took me through Asheville. So I went through Knoxville and went up that way. And on the way back, it took me through Boone. So I went through the top of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was, Zach, the road that we took to get into Dale Hollow, that twisty, turny road, it was that until I got to Boone, North Carolina.
Man, that would be rough.
It was.
I hit 75 going north, and I was just like, "Thank you." And then I had to drive through Ohio, which the creek crawler, he'll tell you is real beautiful, but so
yeah, I mean, I hit 321 and like around Watauga Lake, it goes around every finger of the lake, and it's like, oh my gosh, I've seen this lake 15 times now. I thought I was leaving it. Why am I following it? But it was funny. Like you go through Tennessee and there's like the chain fencing up against the rocks on the side of the road and everything. There's signs that say fallen rocks. There's like signs that's like sharp turn 15 miles an hour. The speed limit is 35. You hit the North Carolina border on the same road. Nothing changes. Speed limit is 55. There's no other signs.
It's just a good luck sign.
Right. All right, Zach. So I definitely wanted to hit on faith as well. I noticed throughout the weekend you were wearing your cross necklace.
Yep.
So I wanted to kind of get your faith story. What is it that you believe in and how you came to believe that?
So to me, I'm one of these, my family never grew up going to church every Sunday. We were a hockey family, so we were basically in a different state traveling every weekend. And so I really didn't find much in my faith until after I met my wife. She was one that her family went to church every Sunday. And kind of being around her, I started going. I had a couple things happen in my life that it seemed like on every Sunday that would be what the message was about. And it hit pretty hard at some points. At a time where I think my dad was going through some heart surgery and like stents and everything, and basically talking about losing a family member and how we can move on from that. And it was just like I felt like somebody called ahead and told them what they needed to say, and it hit home. And so I started going, and then I started doing a lot more fishing. And one thing that I've learned in my own feeling is I heard the song one time that I forget, it's a country song about I'd rather be on the lake with my mind on God than be in church thinking about fishing. And to me, whenever I go fishing, that is the closest that I feel, because you're in his creation. You get to see all of the beautiful things that we as anglers and as basically just people living on this earth get to experience. I actually told her at one point I wanted to start a Sunday kayak church group where we just go out on the lake and we hold a church service on the lake, and then we're out there. But one thing I've noticed over the past couple of years is if I don't get to say my prayer that I do before I fish, my head's not right. Like I don't feel like I'm on the water doing what I need to do. St. Clair, the tournament that we had up here prior to coming down to Dale Hollow, that was one that I got out to my spot early. I had about 15 minutes to sit there, and probably for about 15 minutes, I just sat there and just thought about all the things that have changed over the court or over the last couple of years in my life, and a lot of thanks to just kind of having that faith that no matter what happens, there's always going to be everything's happening for a reason. From just finally moving out to where I am to having a kid on the way after numerous years of kind of saying I didn't want one. We had some foster kids that fell into our home, and we were with them for about 4 or 5 months, and now they're living with the family that's adopting them. So everything that's happened in our lives and my life has led to this point of, now I feel like I'm ready to have a kid of my own, and I can go out and do these tournaments and know that the best part about the best part about doing them is getting to come home to my family and making sure that, I'm not just safe on the water, but knowing that when I say that prayer in the morning, it's not just for me, it's for everybody else on that water, and hoping that they get home safe to their family, and that even if we don't find fish, that we can, find something out of that day.
Heck yeah, man. All right. So with all of our guests, we always ask a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Robert, you want to hit the first one?
Yeah, let me see it's been so long since I asked the questions. I'll probably mess it up, but we'll give it a shot. When you are out on the water, what's your typical conversations?
So for me, a lot of the times I talk to myself quite a bit on the water, and I had a grandfather that passed away when I was 4 years old, I want to say it was, and I never really got to experience being around him much. I never got to let him see, me become a fisherman or a hunter and a father in the future here. But my dad has always told me, that's exactly how he was. He would be super proud of who I am. And I've actually caught myself having conversations that feel like I'm talking to him on the water. And usually it's more on the lines of me venting to him and just realizing that I'm talking to myself really loud, and there's people looking at me probably thinking I'm crazy. But also at the same time, it's more just asking, every now and then you get to that point where you're just like, show me a sign, show me a fish jump or a bird land, and point me in a direction that I can do the work, but you can show me where to go.
Cool.
That's awesome. What fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Fishing story or memory. Well, I mean, it is hard to beat a 10-pound largemouth from Caddo Lake, but my wife is actually a great fisher woman, and she doesn't compete at the level. She doesn't enjoy the competition level. She goes just more for fun. But my favorite memories of that is every time that she's gone out right behind me and caught a fish bigger than I've caught. Actually, like I said, we had a tournament up here last night, and out of the 13 guys that were in this tournament, me, her, and 2 other guys were the only 2 that caught, or the only 4 that caught limits. And, so she can fish, and it makes me proud to know that I taught her some, but she's learned the rest. Because I'm not going to sit there and just kind of teach her, but she's taken the time to watch how I catch things and watch what I throw, and knowing that she is just as good on any given day as I am, but just doesn't want to put in the effort.
That's awesome. All right, man. Well, we are going to move into our What's Your Favorite segment. We do that with every guest. It's self-explanatory. We're going to ask your favorite in a few different categories, and we will get that started right after this.
All right.
If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs has everything you need and more, and it's all eco-friendly and lead-free. With an awesome selection of baits and colors, they've got a variety of techniques covered for you. Finesse jigs, underspins, Nico weights, Ned rigs, and more are all waiting for you at jadesjigs.com. And while you're there, use promo code FNF10 for 10% off your purchase. That's jadesjigs.com and promo code FNF10 for 10% off. If a fly rod is your weapon of choice, check out Atollas. Their fly caddy is the most convenient way to get your favorite flies to the water or just keep them handy by clipping it to your hat, truck visor, backpack, rod case, or just whatever. You can also bundle it up with flies from independent fly tires that Atollas has teamed up with through their Fly Light project. Choose from bundles specializing in redfish, carp, saltwater, or freshwater. Head over to atollas.co, that's ATOLLAS.co, to get your fly caddy today and use promo code faithnfish15 to save 15% on your order. That's faith the letter N, fish the number 15 at checkout for 15% off. All right, Robert, you ready?
Oh yeah, let's roll.
Awesome. So Zach, what is your favorite scripture?
Ooh. It's really hard for me to say I have a favorite because I have a favorite quote. That it's the where you go, I'll go, and where you stay, I'll stay. I don't really, it's hard to say that there's a favorite scripture, only because every single one, it can mean so many different things to so many people. But just knowing, the one, that's kind of the quote that me and my wife have. And I always tell her that, the best part for me about fishing is coming home. And whether or not I win or lose, coming home to her, our dogs, and my future kid, that's what I want.
Absolutely. I on Sunday, I was like, I need some extra encouragement. I'm going to throw on my Russell Strong Fishing Performance shirt. It's going to give me that motivation to like really go at it hard and fish hard. And I put it on, and it was like, what this really is motivating me to do right now is go home and see my family. Mm-hmm. So that was a big part of me leaving early. Was that push to, it's like, this is what's important. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I will say it helped push me that direction, that it was 35 degrees, but
yeah. Well, last night it got cold on us, and like I said, it was nice to see her out there 50 yards away from me, pushing through a cold tournament with me. And that's the thing. Again, it was knowing that she was out there, it makes me fish harder when I see her and know that she's on the water with me, or like, just knowing that she's watching the leaderboard. And like, that was one thing with the KFL that was so cool, is having her family and her and my family right there watching, no matter where I was at in the country.
Yeah, for sure.
But what about on your favorites? What's your favorite Bible story?
I mean, can I say the one, or I can't, trying to think of the names here. Oh man, you guys are really hitting me with these, because a lot of them for me, it's more on the lines of knowing kind of what they are. But again, it's been Hang on. I'm sitting here trying to Google the one that I'm thinking of right now because I can't remember my name or the name that I want to throw out here. But if you have another question, can I come back to that one so I can get it right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Your favorite fish to catch?
I mean, obviously largemouth, smallmouth are going to be right there with them. And then after that, we get a lot of northern pike up here, and they're fun to catch, but I don't like catching them.
Yeah. So, what about your favorite fish to fish for? So the actual, to try to trick them into biting.
The favorite to trick, I would say it would be smallmouth because they are so finicky. And like one thing we were talking about down in Tennessee there is I had to restring a couple of my rods because going from St. Clair to Dale Hollow, if you have more than like 6 to 8 pound test on your line, those fish will see it and they won't bite. And also, just knowing that that your bait has to almost be perfect to what they're looking for. So to go back, I found the one that I was talking about or thinking about here. It was Psalm 88 about trusting God through pain. Being like I said, a sport athlete and then going into fishing, I've carried a lot of being able to go through pain. I've had 2 knee surgeries and I'm only 32 years old, I'll be 32 this year. There are days on the water where my legs don't want to work. But knowing that, being able to push through that, and then the pain of a 10-hour drive, going down, coming home to see your family, and knowing you're in that last hour's worth of a drive, and it's just about sunset, and being able to push through and know that what you're looking for is on the other end of that drive.
Yeah. Awesome. So what is your favorite fish to eat?
I would say a good perch up this way is hard to beat.
How you like it cooked?
I like a fried perch.
Yeah, you fry them whole or you fillet them?
I fillet them when I catch them. I have gone to one restaurant that has fried them whole. The only other fish I've really ever eaten is walleye, and then mahi. I've eaten that a couple times, and I'm not a huge fan of that.
Okay,
it's good, but it's got to be cooked right.
Agreed.
So,
what about when you're fishing? What are you usually snacking on? What's your favorite fishing snack?
When I take snacks, I would say some type of Pringles, some type of chips. I find it very hard to take snacks with me when I fish, let alone even sometimes a drink. I had a water bottle out there with me on Dale Hollow that I didn't even open the whole day Saturday.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times I just kind of get in the zone of fishing and I forget that I brought anything with me. But yeah, every now and then if I do take snacks, it's some type of chips or something that has some flavor, but isn't going to spill if it rolls around the kayak.
I hear you. Yeah, I think it was Saturday. I took one of those box lunches that they were advertising, and man, that was a lot of food. I've never eaten that much on the water before. I've never eaten vegetables on the water, that's for sure. But it was like a turkey and cheese sandwich, a bag of chips, a handful of grapes, an orange, some cucumbers, a big thing of broccoli, carrots, like a handful of carrots, and a big pack of chocolate wafer cookies.
Man, that's almost too much.
It was too much. It was good. It was good. I mean, an orange on the water is it'll give you that big surge of energy for a minute, but it also came with a thing of ranch. I tell you what, I felt bougie sitting there dipping my chips in ranch on the water.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought about getting one, but man, I just, like I said, I forget about food on the water. And a lot of the times I don't get hungry on the water, but then I'm starving as soon as I get off.
Right. All right. So I don't need GPS coordinates or secret spots or anything, but what's your favorite body of water to fish?
So everybody in Michigan is going to be mad at me when I say this. It's not Lake St. Clair. It's not Grand Traverse Bay, and it's not Saginaw Bay. It's the lake that we fished last night. It's Ross Lake in Gladwin County. It's about 7 to 8 minutes from my house. And it's the one lake in the area that within an hour of me, within 45 minutes to an hour, that holds smallmouth and largemouth. It's 3 rivers that come into one. It's got a dam on one end, and it's got actually 4 rivers, but one of them is just 2 cuts of the same river. We went out last night, and everybody was thinking it was going to be smallmouth, and I found one little pocket that held 50-degree water temperatures and started catching largemouths on a bladed jig. And I think I caught one 5 minutes in and kept upgrading ever since. Since the tournament started. But yeah, so that would be probably my favorite spot. Now, if you went second, third, fourth, it would be Lake St. Clair coming in at second and Saginaw Bay coming in at third.
All right.
And if you ever come up to St. Clair, I'll get you onto some smallmouth. I told you I'll take you out there.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah.
You got to take them up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Which questions are left, Cam?
I think it's just the 2. So what's your favorite lure to throw?
I would say a Ned rig, only because I feel like I'm more of a finesse fisherman. But I would have a close second being a bladed jig. I feel very confident with a bladed jig, or a lot of people just call them chatterbaits up here. I'm trying to get myself to call them bladed jigs more often because I don't sound very smart when I go down south and call them a chatterbait. I feel like everybody down there is calling them a bladed jig. So throwing that, I do feel a lot of confidence. But
that aren't Z-Man.
my overall confidence bait would be a Ned rig. Maybe even a drop shot, but usually that drop shot still got some type of Ned bait, some type of real small TRD or something on it.
I hear you. And last but not least, what is your favorite time of year to fish?
Fall, September and October.
Okay. I was going to ask, up there, does fall mean July? But
so our seasons, I think we talked a little bit about this. Our seasons can vary so much up here. We get the full summer, fall, winter, spring, winter again, spring again, winter again, and then straight to summer. So right now I think we're in third winter. So summer should be right around the corner, but fall to me is just that time of year when just every fish is being active. Spring you're going to get a lot of big fish, but fall is when you get the abundance of fish, and they're usually pretty good sized. I don't really fish much in the winter. I'm more of a hunter, just because I don't find ice fishing enjoyable. And then come spring, I'm usually chasing smallmouth, and as soon as I see 50-degree water temperatures, I'm looking for greenfish.
Cool.
I hear you.
So,
All right, man. Well, we're going to start wrapping things up. What is coming up next for Zack Soulliere?
I got a couple local tournaments, and just trying to get through the last part of the school year up here. I started teaching a little bit, and I'm done here in May. And after May 31st, I'm open until September, and so I'll be doing a little bit here and there. I maybe plan on doing one or two more longer travel events, but mainly just doing some local stuff. Our Michigan Trail has a tournament coming up here, I want to say in a week and a half. So I may jump in that, but it's on a lake that I just don't have a lot of experience on, and I'm not really going to have time to pre-fish it. So we're not really sure.
All right, and go ahead and plug your socials if our listeners want to follow along with your adventures. How do they find you?
Facebook is just going to be my name, and then Instagram is really the only other one I use, and that's going to be the Great Lakes Yak Fisher. But great is spelt GRT. So if you search my name, you can find either one of them. And that's, those are really the only two that I use.
All right. And I want to give you an open floor to shout out any sponsors, supporters, anybody you want to say thank you to.
Yeah. First one for me would be Fireball Outdoor Products. It hooks me up with a lot of my jigs, my bladed jigs, anything I need. He's out of Ohio. I've got Stretching Lines angler gear out of, I know he's on the East Coast. I don't remember exactly where he's at, but he's up by Boston. And then I got RoboHawk, which is a lanyard tether company. Woo Tungsten, and Strictly Sail has always been there for me anytime I need anything for the kayak. Let me see, make sure I'm not missing any here. Hang on. Yeah. And then the only other one is I got a local, my local car dealer here in Gladwin, Michigan, Richardson Automotive. They hooked me up this year, helping me out with travel expenses. Also, they anytime I need oil changes, they're making sure that my truck is ready to go for any trip that I decide to take. So, I appreciate them, and I know, I'm doing everything I can to send people their way to buy a new truck.
Heck yeah.
So.
All right, man. Well, Zack, thank you so much for coming on the show. I have enjoyed it, and I miss you, man.
Yeah, hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. Just getting to meet you for a couple of days. I mean, I can tell you're a great guy, and like I said, I'd love to. If you know you're going to a tournament that's out towards the Kentucky, Tennessee area, you let me know, and I'll see if I can head down that way, and we can meet up and share a place together again.
Heck yeah, man.
So, but all right, well, I'll be watching next weekend when you get Brian on here. So.
Heck yeah, man. All right, man. Take care.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Few things ruin your day on the water as bad as losing gear. But with the retrieval devices for fishing rods, action cams, bow fishing bows, and more from Soulliere Outdoors, you don't have to let dropping your stuff ruin your day because you can get it back. The pressure-sensitive filter keeps water from rain and quick dips in the water out, but it lets water in when your gear goes overboard to release a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back. Go to SoulliereOutdoors.com to learn more and try some for yourself, and use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% on your order. That's SAVUROutdoors.com and promo code FNFP15.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on-the-water courses and demos. And we'll even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check out shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
Another huge thank you to Zack for coming on the show and sharing his story with us. His links will be in the show notes, so make sure you go follow along. Robert, man, what's your takeaway from this one?
Yeah, man, it sounds like you guys had a big time down in Tennessee, and I think that's a great event and a good thing that Paddle and Fin's doing. I think anybody that's kayak fishing has well, I won't say anybody, but most people who are into podcasts especially have followed along with those guys and their different shows. And I think they really help propel, the sport forward, and to have that where you can go meet those guys, go meet other people that are listening to the podcast, and to be at such a great lake, it's pretty awesome. And like I said, hopefully next year I can get there, but it sounds like you guys had a great time.
Heck yeah, man. It was funny. Whenever I decided to head back in and seek out biscuits and gravy, I went past the ramp on the marina there, and Zack was taken out at the exact same time I was. So we came to the decision at the same time and made it there. But yeah, it was a beautiful lake, and it was a great time. And I'm ashamed to say that I did let some of my misfortunes get to me a little bit and get frustrated on my my practice day. And that's whenever I flipped my kayak, the brakes on my chatterbait reel busted, and so I had a few things that I was like, it got to me. And then, I kind of recalibrated, went out Saturday, caught a couple fish real early, and was like, got kind of back on track. And then saw the level of competition that I was up against, and I was like, you know what? This is insane.
Yeah, and that's one thing that, I definitely got a big dose of last year going to some of the national events is, the level. There's, all those people are going to catch fish no matter what lake that they go to. And, there's some people like that around us too that fish in our local clubs. You see the same names up there every other weekend. The top 10 just shuffle around, and they can catch fish on every lake we go to. And, so it can be discouraging, but at the same time, it is, I know I checked the leaderboard around lunchtime and saw that you had a couple, and, it is fun on those days where it falls into place. And, each time you go, I found myself learning a ton, traveling to those tournaments, and it just makes you better and builds you into a better angler.
Absolutely.
And then, you have those days like I did 2 weeks ago, and I thought I had a pretty good game plan for McIntosh, and I swear I had one bite, but I think it was probably a bluegill. And I watched people catch fish where I was at. So that's kind of frustrating as well. You can see people catching fish. So I was around fish. I just wasn't, executing the way that those anglers were. So, it makes you take a step back and recalibrate. And, that's what makes it fun too, though. Cause if you went and you caught them every time, it wouldn't be as special when you did have those great days.
Right.
So you got to take the good with the bad.
And speaking of great days, another shout out to Robert Knoll. So his 2-day total, 197 inches and a half, 197.5. Second place was 182.
Yeah, he crushed it.
He had a phenomenal tournament. But anyways, man, you want to close us out in prayer?
Sure, no problem. Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to have Zack on and share those stories about trips and share his stories about the faith. Please let us be great examples for you. Please give us the strength to work on our relationship with you daily and to build relationships in our lives that will bring other people closer to you. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, man. You want to sign us out?
Yeah, man. We'll see you guys next week. Get ready for the creek crawler, right?
That's right. If everything goes according to plan.
All right. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to hearing the story behind that. So we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by Cam Steele and Robert Randolph and is sponsored by Savior Outdoors, Jay's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, Atollas, and Omnia Fishing. Don't forget to join the Facebook community, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.